Buick swans winter in Western Europe. In October they return from their breeding grounds in Siberia. In their winter habitat they feed on water plants, but also on the remains of sugar beet found on arable land and on farmers' meadows. At the end of winter, the swans migrate back to their breeding grounds in northern Siberia, 4,000 kilometers from Western Europe. Because their exact migratory routes were not known, swans were caught and fitted with satellite transmitters. It then became clear that the swans migrated to their breeding grounds in several stages. From Western Europe, they fly to the Baltic states, from there to the White Sea, and then onwards to their breeding grounds in northern Siberia. These wetland stopovers are of vital importance. The swans spend 2 to 3 weeks at each to recuperate by feeding before they set off for the next stage of their journey. 2 months after their departure from Western Europe, the swans reach their breeding grounds on the tundra in Siberia, just as the snow has melted. At the same time, the black-tailed godwits, having wintered in West Africa, are back at their breeding grounds. Their flight back to Europe took them over a chain of wetlands in North Africa, Portugal, and up through Italy. In Holland, for instance, they head mainly for the wet grassy meadows of the farmers. As the black-tailed godwits fight for the best nesting places and perform their first display flight to attract a partner, the sandwich terns are still in southern Africa. Along Namibia's coastline, they stuff themselves on tiny shrimp so as to be fit and strong for the long journey ahead. In 2 months, they fly the length of Africa's coastline and on to Western Europe, arriving there in May to breed. The migration of most of the waterbirds within Eurasia and from Eurasia to Africa is more often than not determined by the insistent rhythm of the seasons, summer and winter. However, this is sometimes very different in Africa.
Flamingos here, you could see them on the distance there. They are here, this is the main feeding grounds. But as soon as the rain conditions are ideal in Etosha, they will all pack up and fly to Etosha. It happens that within 24 hours, the whole population on the coast, all 75,000 of them, will have gone all the way down to Etosha. Then they will go up there and breed. If you have a very deep low pressure system, this time of year is a good chance of them having rain, and then they will send out small groups, will fly along the coast, all the way up the coast to a place called Rocky Point, then will cross over to Etosha. And if they do come back, obviously there's no rain. If they don't come back, you will say more and more groups are leaving the same path.
Many waterbirds migrate within Europe, like the geese and swans. Others, like the black-tailed godwit and the sandwich terns, migrate from Europe to West and Southern Africa, or like the lesser and greater flamingos, within Africa. All these migrating waterbirds depend on the stopovers where they must feed to gather strength for the next stage. Migrating waterbirds need this chain of highly vulnerable wetlands situated in a variety of countries. The AEWA tries to bring the various countries together and to get them to reach agreements amongst themselves.